Book of Heaven, Volume 21, Part 7. April 22nd, 1927. How creation is the ornaments of the divine being. Incapacity of comprehending it. Great delight in the creation of man. Continuing in my usual state, my sweet Jesus made himself seen as a child, all afflicted, and his sadness was such that it seemed as if he felt himself dying. I squeezed him to my heart. I kissed him several times. Who knows what I would have done to cheer him? And Jesus, sighing, told me, "My daughter, look at how beautiful is the whole creation. What charm of light, what enchantment of variety, and of rare beauty. Yet these are nothing but ornaments of our divine being. If our ornaments are such, our being surpasses our very ornaments in an incomprehensible way, and the creature is incapable of comprehending the whole incomprehensibility of our being. Just as the eye is incapable of enclosing within itself the whole vastness of the light of the sun, it sees it, it fills itself with light, as much as it can contain of it. But as for enclosing the whole of it, or measuring the length and breadth of the extension of the light, this is impossible for it. Such is our divine being for the human capacity. It is our ornaments that man always sees and touches with his own hand. He sees the sun, he touches its light, that makes him feel its heat. He sees the immensity of the waters of the sea. He sees the azure vault of the heavens with many stars. But as for knowing what the light is made of, how much light it contains, how much water the sea contains, how many stars there are in that azure vault, and what it is made of, he will not be able to say anything about it. He sees and enjoys all this, but he is the first little ignorant one in arithmetic, weight, and measure. If it is so with our ornaments, much more so with our divine being. However, you must know that all creation and each created thing gives lessons to man. They narrate our divine qualities, and each one of them gives lessons in the quality it contains. The sun gives lessons in light, and teaches that in order to be light, one must be pure, stripped of every matter. Light always contains heat, united with it. One cannot separate the light from the heat. So, if you want to be light, you must love your Creator alone. And this will bring you, like sun, the fecundity of good. The heavens give you lessons about my celestial fatherland. They call you continuously to your Creator. They give you lessons in detachment from what is earth, in the height of sanctity that you must reach, and how you must adorn yourself with all the divine virtues, more than stars. So each thing gives lessons and calls man to reflect himself in them, in order to copy them and imitate them. I did not put out my ornaments only for them to be seen, but so that by imitating them, the creature might adorn herself with them. Yet, who pays attention to listen to so many lessons? Almost no one. And all afflicted, he kept silent. Then I followed the supreme will in the act in which the divine being was about to create man, so that I too, together with my first father, Adam, might love him with the same love with which he loved him in the first instant of his creation. I wanted to receive that same divine breath, that outpouring of love, in order to give it back to my Creator. But while I was thinking of this, my sweet Jesus, all delighted, told me, "My daughter, for one who lives in my will, there is not one act of ours at which she cannot be present, nor any act that we issued from ourselves that she cannot receive. Here is my breath to you, and the outpouring of our love." How great was our delight in this first act of the creation of man! We had created heaven and earth, but we felt nothing new within ourselves. But in creating man, it was very different. It was a will that was being created, and this will was free, and in it we enclosed our will, as though putting it in a bank, in order to collect the interest of our love, of the glory, and of the adoration that befitted us. Oh, how love overflowed within us! How it trembled with joy in pouring into this free will, to hear it say, "I love you." And when man, filled with our own, released from his breast the first word, "I love you," immense was our delight, because it was as if he were giving us the interest for all the goods we had placed in him. This free will, created by us, was the depository of the capital of a divine will, and we would content ourselves with a small interest, without ever demanding the capital back. Therefore, great was the sorrow for the fall of man, because he rejected our capital, so as not to give us our small interest. His bank remained empty, and his enemy, banding with him, filled him with passions and miseries. Poor one, he went broke. Now, my daughter, since the act of the creation of man was a solemn act, and of great delight for us, we call you and want you in this act, in order to repeat the solemnity of it, placing in your will the great capital of ours. And as we do this, our love overflows and trembles with joy, with great delight, because we see our purpose realized. Surely you will not deny the small interest to us? You will not reject our capital, will you? Even more, every day we will do the accounts. I will call you to be present at that first act, when we created this free will, you to give me the interest, and I to see if I can add some more of my capital. My mind was wandering in the divine fiat, and I thought to myself, oh, how I would like to receive that first act of creation, that divine outpouring of intense love that he poured upon the first creature when he created him. I would like to receive that omnipotent breath, to be able to return to my Creator all the love and the glory that he had established to receive from the creature. But while I was thinking of this, my sweet Jesus, clasping me to himself, told me, "My daughter, this is precisely my purpose for coming to you so often. So much so that it may appear strange to some, and almost outside of my usual ways, since almost with no one have I done this, of going so often. All this is to reorder my prime act of the way I created the creature, and this is why I return to you, staying like the most loving father with his daughter. How many times have I not breathed into you, to the point that you could not contain my omnipotent breath? I have poured in you my contained love, to the point of filling you up to the brim of your soul. All this was nothing other than the renewal of the solemn act of creation. I wanted to feel that great delight of when I created man, and therefore I come to you, not only to renew it, but to reorder the order, the harmony, the love between creator and creature in the way he was created. In the beginning of the creation of man, there was no distance between me and him. Everything was familiarity. As soon as he would call me, I would be with him. I loved him as my son, and as my son, I felt so drawn to him that I could not do without going and being with him very often. With you, I am renewing the beginning of creation. Therefore, be attentive in receiving such a great good. April 24th, 1927. General uproar to reorder the kingdom of the Fiat. Outpouring of divine love in the creation, and how it still lasts. How all creation was centralized over the soul. I was feeling embittered because of the privation of my sweet Jesus, and while I was longing for his return, he came out from within my interior, but so afflicted as to arouse pity. And I said to him, "But tell me what's wrong, that you are so afflicted?" And Jesus, "Ah, my daughter, grave things are to happen. In order to reorder a kingdom, a house, a general uproar happens first, and many things perish. Some lose, others gain. In some, there is chaos, a greater struggling, and many things are suffered in order to reorder, renew, and give a new shape to the kingdom, or the house. There is more suffering and more work to do if one must destroy in order to rebuild than if one only had to build. The same will happen in order to rebuild the kingdom of my will. How many innovations need to be made? It is necessary to turn everything upside down, to knock down and destroy human beings, to upset the earth, the sea, the air, the wind, the water, and the fire, so that all may put themselves at work in order to renew the face of the earth, so as to bring the order of the new kingdom of my divine will into the midst of creatures. Therefore, many grave things will happen. And in seeing this, if I look at the chaos, I feel afflicted. But if I look beyond, in seeing the order and my new kingdom rebuilt, I go from a deep sadness to a joy so great that you cannot comprehend. This is the reason why you see me now sad, and now with the joy of my celestial fatherland. I felt sad because of this uproar that Jesus had talked to me about. Those grave things were terrifying. I could hear tumults, revolutions, and wars in several places. Oh, how my poor heart moaned. And Jesus, to cheer me, took me in his arms, pressed me tightly to his most holy heart, and told me, "My daughter, let us look beyond, that we may be cheered. I want to make things return as in the beginning of creation. That was nothing other than an outpouring of love, and it still lasts, because whatever we do once, we do always. It is never interrupted. No tiredness of repeating an act ever enters into us. Whatever we do once, we like to do always. This is the divine operating, to do an act that lasts for centuries upon centuries, and even for all eternity. So our outpouring of love, our breath, is unleashed continuously from our divine womb, and it runs to breathe over the generations of creatures. So hovering within all creation, our outpouring of love invests heavens and earth, sun and sea, wind and water, and it runs toward creatures. If it were not so, the heavens would shrink, the stars would be scattered, the sun would become poor in light, the water would be lacking, the earth would produce neither plants nor fruits, because since the life of our love hovering within all things would be missing, these would withdraw into our source from which they came. And if our breath were to be missing, the generation of creatures would end, because they are nothing but sparks that our breath sends out in order to fecundate the growing generation. Now creatures take what is material in created things, and leave the life of love that, hovering within everything, remains suspended, unable to give itself. It happens as when one goes into a flowery field or into a garden in which there are trees loaded with precious fruits. If one only looks at a flower and does not pick it, he will not receive the taste and the life of the fragrance of the flower. If one looks at a fruit and does not pick it from the tree in order to eat it, he will not enjoy it, nor will he receive the life of the fruit. So it is with all creation. Man looks at it, but he does not receive the life of love placed by God in all created things, because man does not place his will, nor does he open his heart to receive this continuous outpouring of love of his Creator. But in spite of this, our outpouring of love does not stop. Our regenerative breath is always in act and in motion, and we wait for the kingdom of our divine Fiat, so that this love of ours, hovering around, may descend into the midst of creatures and give our divine life. And in receiving it, the creatures will form their own outpouring of love to give it to him from whom they receive it. Therefore, my daughter, the whole creation is centralized over you. I look at you from the starry heavens, and I send you this outpouring of love. I look at you from the sun, and breathing over you, I send you my divine life. I look at you from the sea, and in its foaming and mighty waves, I send you my love, that being constrained, I unload with might over you, like a sea. I look at you from the wind, and I pour over you my ruling, purifying, warming love. I look at you from the mountains, and I send you the outpouring of my firm and unshakable love. There is not one place or created thing from which I do not look at you, to pour love over you. In fact, since my will is in you, you draw me from all sides to look at you, because my will expands your capacity to receive my continuous outpouring of love. Wherever my divine will reigns, I can give everything. I can centralize everything. And a contest arises between creator and creature, I in giving, she in receiving. I give, and she gives to me. She gives to me, and I give yet more superabundant ways. Therefore, always in my will do I want you, that we may be always in a contest, I with you, and you with me. April 30th, 1927. Glory of the unity of the divine will, and how acting in it is always a divine way. Works and sacrifices that Jesus does in the soul in order to form the kingdom of the Fiat. I was praying my round in the creation to follow the acts of the divine will in all created things. And my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, one was my will that came out in creation, but it spread and multiplied itself in each created thing. And the soul who goes around in the creation to follow its acts and to embrace them all together gathers the divine will that is spread in all things and makes it one, giving me the glory of the unity of it. Then, spreading it again in all created things, she gives me the glory of my divine will multiplied and bilocated in so many things. It is something great, my daughter, that the littleness of the creature reunites all together this will of mine bilocated and multiplied in so many things, so as to say to me, one is the glory, the honor, the love I want to give you. Because the one act contains everything. It is perfect, and it alone is worthy of you. One was the will that came out from you, and as one do I want to bring it to you." And then, making use of her loving stratagems, she spreads it again, and she gives me the glory of the supreme Fiat, multiplied and bilocated in all things. And I let her do everything, and I delight in and enjoy her loving stratagems. In fact, being in my will, she is in my house, and she can do nothing but what pertains to the celestial family. Her acting is always divine way of acting that alone can please me and give me perfect love and glory. After this I felt oppressed. The privations of Jesus become longer. I felt all the weight of my long exile and the pain of my faraway fatherland. A profound sadness invaded my poor soul, and my beloved Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, both of us must have patience and think about the work of the formation of the kingdom of the divine will. No one knows what we are doing, the sacrifices it takes, the continuous acts, the prayers that are needed to form and obtain a good so great. No one takes part in our sacrifices. No one helps us to form this kingdom that will bring them so much good. And while they pay no attention to us, they think about enjoying their miserable life without even disposing themselves to receive the good we are preparing. Oh, if creatures could see what passes in the secrecy of our hearts, how surprised with amazement they would be." The same happened when my mamma and I were on earth, while we were preparing, between the two of us, the kingdom of redemption, all the remedies that were needed so that all might find salvation. No sacrifices were spared, nor works, nor life, nor prayers. And while we were intent on thinking about everyone, on giving our life for all, no one would think about us. No one knew what we were doing. My celestial mamma was the depository of the kingdom of redemption, and therefore she took part in all the sacrifices, in all sorrows. Only Saint Joseph knew what we were doing, but he did not share in all our sorrows. Oh, how our hearts ached in seeing that, while mother and son were consuming themselves with pains and with love for all, in order to form all possible and imaginable remedies for all, so as to heal them and place them in safety, they not only did not think about us, but offended us, despised us, and others plotted against my life, even from my birth. This I am repeating with you, my daughter, in order to form the kingdom of the divine Fiat. The world takes from us, even though it does not know us. Only my assisting minister knows what we are doing, but he does not take part either in our sacrifices or in our work. We are alone. Therefore, patience in this long work. The more we work, the more we will enjoy the fruits of this celestial kingdom. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 21, Part 7. Fiat.